We have a very specific contract when we sit down to play a video game. I pick up the controller, I press a button, and the world on the screen reacts. It's the one thing that separates this medium from cinema or literature: agency. We are sold on the idea that we matter, that our presence in the game changes things. And in an interactive game where we constantly make choices, we naturally think our choices should make a difference. Because otherwise, why would the game make us choose, right? That's exactly why when playing a choice-focused game like Dispatch, I had a belief in my head that my choices mattered. And at the end of every chapter, I thought I got to that point because of my choices. And it felt phenomenal. But when I went back and checked the other choices, I realized that choices mostly do not matter in Dispatch. Now, to be fair, there are exceptions, like who do you want to romance, Blonde Blazer or Invisigal, or who do you want in your team, Waterboy or Omni-Man. Sure, that changes a cutscene or two, but other than that, it doesn't change anything else. Plus, the person you didn't take into the team joins later anyway. The impact your decisions have on the script is almost zero. Even the person you fired from the team becomes an enemy in the same way and shows similar behaviors. But wait, you might say, I did click the buttons, I chose the aggressive dialogue option, and the story shaped itself around that. Well, no it didn't. This is what I like to call the first sentence problem. Dispatch is notorious for this. You get 2 or 3 distinct options, you pick the one that sounds cool, your character says that specific line, and then, immediately after, they pivot right back into a pre-written monologue that is 99% identical regardless of what you picked. It's a magic trick. The game acknowledges your input for exactly 3 seconds to make you feel involved and then politely ignores you to get back to the script. It's an illusion of choice. The game makes you believe your choices shape the story even if they don't, which is actually impressive. And honestly, as long as you don't know this, the game flows really well. The trouble starts when you figure it out. If I hadn't gone back to look at other choices, I probably would have enjoyed the game more. Because seeing that my decisions didn't really have an effect on the story wasn't a pleasant experience. I realized that for the last 10 hours, I wasn't really a driver. I wasn't even a co-pilot. I was just a passenger in a very pretty car pretending to hold a plastic steering wheel. And that brings us to the question in the title of this video. Should Dispatch actually be considered a game? Johan Huizinga, author of Homo Ludens, or Playing Man, spoke about the importance of games containing some sort of tension, like winning or losing. If there is no winning or losing in a game, this seriously reduces your motivation to keep going. This is where we run into another element that pushes Dispatch away from being a game, because there is no fail state in Dispatch. No matter what you do, you cannot lose. I'm not just talking about the parts where you make choices, by the way. There is also no losing in the parts where we do dispatching for superheroes, which is the core gameplay. Even if you don't send a single hero to any event or fail all the events, nothing changes in the game and the story continues in the same way. In fact, except for a few parts, like the tutorial at the beginning, you can finish the game from start to finish without touching the gamepad. Even if you make no choices, Robert automatically picks the predetermined option. Even if you don't do the quick time events, Robert handles the problems anyway. Even if you don't send any hero to any mission, the game doesn't fail, and the story continues the same way. Sure, maybe there's a difference in a few cutscenes, or characters might say a different sentence or two, but that's all. It mostly doesn't matter. And this leads us to the actual playing part of the game: dispatching. Look, the gameplay is mediocre, okay? It's not groundbreaking or anything, but it's enough to keep you engaged. However, the main reason for this is again the story. I mean, if there was no story and it was a game consisting only of the dispatching segments, Dispatch probably wouldn't attract anyone's attention, because it's mostly just busy work to keep your hands occupied while your ears listen to the dialogue. If we were to remove all the gameplay segments in the game and just stitch the cutscenes together into a 5-hour video file, what would we lose? We would lose the pacing maybe, we'd lose a few fun conversations during the dispatching segments perhaps, but we wouldn't lose the essence of the game. And that is a very dangerous thing to say about a product sold as a video game. If you can remove the gameplay and the value remains 90% intact, then the gameplay was never the point. It was just a delivery mechanism. So at this point, it sounds like I'm trashing the game, but actually I'm not, because I loved it. Despite everything I just said, despite the fake choices, the linear path, the mediocre gameplay, this patch completely pulled me in. And why? Because the writing is phenomenal, the characters feel like real people, they have messy lives, they have inside jokes, they have heart. It feels wholesome in a way that very few games manage to achieve. And isn't that what determines the value of a piece of work anyway? The feeling it gives us. If this patch had been released as an 8-episode animated show, the writing would still shine, the characters would still be lovable, the wholesome factor would remain untouched. In fact, it might have even better as a show, because we wouldn't be distracted by the mediocre gameplay segments. But it was released on Steam, it has achievements, it has controller support, so we call it a game. Because that is the closest shelf we have to put it on. It's a game because interactive digital narrative experience is too long to write on a price tag. Maybe this patch isn't a good game in the mechanical sense, but it's one of the best stories I have experienced this year. And frankly, if this story is this good, I don't mind pretending to hold the steering wheel for a while.